Hey guys, welcome to Wombat Bets. I'm Chris, and this is another weekly episode of our best bets for the upcoming UFC card. Now here's a little recap of last week's performance. Not too bad, little profit of 0.5 units. Felt there were some good reads, but ultimately, the Ortega fight was the difference between an okay night like we had and a fantastic night like we could have had. Secondly, I'd love it if you guys could support the channel, subscribe, like to the videos, let me know how things are going. It really means a lot and pushes the channel forward. Now let's get into best bets for UFC London, Blaydes versus Aspinall. First up, we've got our parlay, so Nathaniel Wood and Jai Herbert to win. So first up, we've got Nathaniel Wood and Charles Rosa. Nathaniel's moving up to lightweight for his first fight there. He's great on the ground, he's got great hands, and he's got great cardio. He's got a really good pathway for natural progression. He's only young, and his two losses are to John Dodson and Casey Kenny, two very respectable fighters. Both fights were very competitive. Only concern here is a little bit of a ring rust. He hasn't fought for almost 2 years. He's a little bit hittable, but I assume that he's working on those weaknesses while he's been away in camp. Rosa's old, he's average, he has terrible grappling. He's been taken down 18 times in his last 4 fights with 38% takedown defense, which is terrible. He's not great. I think that it's UFC London. UFC is going to give him a very, very favourable matchup, and I think that he's going to easily win this one. Next part of the parlay is Jai Herbert. He's a good fighter. He's just fought 3 great fighters in his time in the UFC. I think that Topuria, potentially a future champ. Trinaldo, great fighter. Moicano, very good fighter too. My only issue here is being KO'd twice in his last 2 fights. The Topuria one was pretty brutal too, but Nelson is also the same. He's been KO'd a number of times in UFC. I think Herbert's got a massive reach advantage, a massive striking advantage, and I think that he'll probably finish him. Carl Nelson's only got one win in his fights in the UFC against Marco Polo Reyes, who has 4 KO losses in his last 5 fights and is no longer with the UFC. Second parlay is Mark Diakiesé and to win, and Craig Ozdemir to not go the distance. So I have to shout out my boy Drivey MMA for this Diakiesé play. I'm going to put up his Twitter. I'm going to put up the his breakdown because I completely agree with it 100%. So make sure you like his channel, like his page rather. Stay up to date with his bets. He's got some great bets for the upcoming card. I think here Diakiesé is just better everywhere, which is what Drivey's basically said. His only win is against Marco Polo Reyes, who we mentioned and have already clarified sucks. So I see a Diakiesé decision here, which we'll touch on again later. The next one is fight doesn't go the distance for Paul Craig and Ozdemir. I think that Paul Craig's fights are stupid. He was getting his head bounced off the canvas like a basketball before he just threw up a triangle, got the submission. His fights just never go the way they're supposed to, but either way, he's never been to a decision in the UFC, and I expect that trend to continue. So we've got 5 units on Wood and Herbert at -147 or $1.68, and 5 units at -120 for Diakiesé and Craig Ozdemir to not go the distance at -120 or $1.83. Next up is our first single play of the night. It's Mandy BOHM versus Victoria Leonardo. I think BOHM here is the far better fighter. She came in with a lot of hype, didn't exactly live up to it. And didn't really have a great performance against Lipski, but I'm betting on her to bounce back here, especially with the price that we've gotten. I think Lipski was probably a bad matchup. She couldn't quite get the grappling going against her and couldn't really use her length to the advantage. Now, she's recently changed camps from SBG Ireland to Extreme Couture. We know SBG have a terrible record with fighters that aren't named Conor McGregor. Extreme Couture, on the other hand, has an excellent record of developing fighters. I think she's got all the tools to win this fight. She just needs to use them. On the other hand, Leonardo sucks. She's been KO'd twice in the last 2 fights. I don't care who that was against. Her only win is on the Contender Series against a Muay Thai fighter who'd had 3 professional fights at that point, Chelsea Hackett, and she's a kickboxer. I think BOHM should hopefully use her brain, use her length, and use the striking advantage to an easy decision. So we've got BOHM here, 2 units at -123 and $1.81. Next up, we've got Paddy the Baddy and the Monkey King, Jordan Leavitt. Touch on the Monkey King first. He's a good fighter. He's got good skills, good grappling, good submissions. Combined, they've gone 10 decisions out of 32 fights, which seems like a lot, 30% roughly. But I'm going to play this from more of a situational angle, I think. We've seen how Paddy the Baddy comes out like a bat out of hell. Just throws bombs, throws heat, and just either gets hit really bad or hits the other person and drops them. I think it's going to be both in front of their home crowd. I think that they're likely to come out with a bit more urgency as opposed to being at the Apex, where it's a little bit more mellow. All of Paddy's fights have been ridiculous. He just comes out throwing heat. I think he's going to get a finish in the first round, or he's going to get finished. I think Jordan will probably be smart enough to try and slow the pace, but it'll either be get hit or hit him. You can't slow the pace down against Paddy unless you take him down, and you can hold him down, but that's pretty hard. I think Jordan's going to need to force his game and actually get a stoppage unless he wants to get dropped. I can see this definitely ending via sub, but I've played it safe with fight doesn't go the distance for 5 units. I think I'm pretty confident in this one, so it's 5 units at -169 or $1.59. I think that price is just absurd for how many finishes these guys have and how this fight's actually going to play out. Next fight, we've got AMIRKHANI versus Jonathan Pearce. Now, Mr. Finland is the weirdest fighter ever. In round 1, he looks as dangerous as Francis Ngannou, and then as soon as he hits round 2 and 3, he just gasses into someone with the finishing ability of Belal Muhammad. He has no KO threat. It's all subs or nothing for this man. In his career, he's only got one finish outside of the first round, which is kind of stupid. Now, he's facing Jonathan Pearce, who's a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. He's got decent cardio. He pushes a pretty high pace. He's got decent grappling and a big finishing upside. 10 out of his 12 fights some of his wins have come via finish, but he's reckless. He rushes in, he leaves his neck wide open when he goes in for his takedowns, and I think he either gets his neck snatched or he finishes Makwan in the later rounds. So we've got Pearce inside the distance, 1 unit at +130 or $2.30, and then we've got 5 units at 0.5 units for Makwan round 1 sub, +800 or $9. Next up, we've got Mark Diakhiese and Damir Hadzovic. As I mentioned earlier, Diakhiese has all the tools in the shed to beat Damir, especially in the grappling department. So if he uses his brain and he uses them, he's absolutely going to win this fight. I think he's going to wrestle him to a decision. I don't see too much of an upside in the finishing department for either guy. Both fighters have only been finished twice themselves, which gives me a high confidence of a decision here. Damir, like I said, has got terrible takedown defense, and this is a price you can't miss when it jumped to +175. I think that's just insane. So Diakhiese via decision, 1 unit at +175 or $2.75, if you will. Next up, we've got the Mauler versus Nikita Krylov, Alexander Gustafsson. It's just honestly a really just a fade of Alex. I think he didn't look very good at heavyweight last time out, and now he's back down at light heavyweight. I don't think that's going to make any difference. I love Alex. He's a legend. He's a legend of the sport. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He has some great fights with John Jones. I just think he's very much past it. He took a year off after he lost to Anthony Smith, came back, lost to a very old, finished Fabricio Verdum, which isn't a great look. And it's also been 2 years since that loss to Fabricio. I don't really know what would have changed between now and then. I don't think he's not getting any younger. He's not getting any more athletic. Look, I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he takes my units away. I just don't see it. So we've got Krylov to win 1.8 units at -180 or $1.56. Next up, we've got the Joker, Jack Hermansson versus the Action Man, Chris Curtis. I love Chris Curtis. He's been on this unbelievable run. It's a bit of a hype story or a really fascinating story. But he's got absolutely no right being a -120 favourite in his 4th UFC fight over an absolute veteran like Jack Hermansson. He's not Rodolfo Vieira. He's not going to gas. His grappling doesn't suck, and his whole fight isn't just dependent on takedowns. So he's going to be very much tested. It's very much a 50-50 fight. We know what we get with both guys. Chris has got great boxing, and Jack's got great grappling, and he's got a great chin. I think this fight favours Jack very slightly. It's going to take place in the clinch, and it should be priced, like I said, at -110 apiece. We've also got a goes to decision prop here. They've both got great chins. They've both been to a shit ton of decisions, and I think there's going to be a lot of grappling exchanges, which makes the higher likelihood of a decision happening. So we've got Hermansson 1 unit at +125 or $2.25, and then we've got fight goes the distance for 0.75 units at +110 or $2.10. Now, we have the main event next. We've got Tom Aspinall versus the Razor Blaydes. So this is the last fight on the card, obviously, and it's the one everyone's looking forward to. It's some heavyweights who actually have some sort of discernible skills. It's going to be a great fight. We've got the wrestling of Blaydes versus the striking and the movement of Tom Aspinall. So the picks here are Aspinall, and fight doesn't go the distance. So in 33 fights, these guys have only been to a decision 5 times, and they're all Curtis Blaydes. And all very much depends on his wrestling, and I don't think he's going to be able to get that wrestling going here. Tom's never been to a decision, mind you. That alone made me jump on this price. The odds implied are 64% chance of coming off, and I think this is 75 plus higher. I think there's a world where Blaydes may be able to wrestle him, but I can't see that happening. I think Aspinall is decent enough movement and athleticism and explosiveness that he gets. If he does get taken down, which I'm sure is going to happen, he's going to pop right back up. I think this is really similar to the Fiziev RDA fight. Just because we haven't seen Tom tested in the grappling department to a high degree doesn't mean that it isn't good, doesn't mean he's not working on it, and doesn't mean he can get up after he's been taken down. I think this is a really bad style matchup for Curtis. Tom's got 9 KOs. Curtis has lost, all his losses, have come via KO. I think Tom's going to piece him up, he's going to do his thing, he's going to make it look relatively easy. I think it will be his toughest fight, but I still think he'll easily get the win. He's going to wear him down, finish him in the 3rd or 4th round. So we've got 5 units on the fight doesn't go the distance at -164, and 3.5 units at +100 or $2 on Tom Aspinall. So those are our best bets for this upcoming UFC card, Blaydes versus Aspinall. Like, subscribe, let me know how things are going, and we'll see you next time.